Live. Hello, everybody. I am so honored to have a fantastic panel of ladies with me tonight. So, everyone joining us live, tell us where you're coming from. I have people from Texas and Florida, and then we've got Devin over there in Canada. So, Toronto. So super excited to have this conversation. You know, there are so many moms in the business community, but lots of events you see don't necessarily have a lot of moms. It's just something we don't typically talk about, even though moms are the ones that are most impacted by the pandemic because they have, multiple priorities. And so I'm so excited to have you ladies all join me. We'll go around and we'll start with some introductions and hopefully some folks will join us and we'll go from there. So tell us about yourself and also, how you deal with either the challenges or any tips you have for other moms that are out there. Tara, we will start with you. Tell us.
Hello, I am Tara Fioriani, not the HR lady. I am a mom of 7 human beings. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. They're actual human people. It doesn't count my cats. We don't actually have any cats. I have been in this space of people for 20 years, 12 of them spent as a chief people officer for organizations all over the globe, as large as 15,000 employees. I have left doing that work. I am now a full-time people consultant in the executive space, and I host a really popular and fun business show called Not the HR Lady. We are in our 2nd season. I sure hope you will join us. We drop every show live at 7 o'clock on Thursday, so tomorrow. And this one's called DEI or Die, really exciting. Being a mom of 7, this pandemic has been absolutely bananas because all my kids are in virtual school. And I don't know if everybody's still doing that or if you guys have ever done that with your kids, but mine are in kindergarten. And when you can't read, that poses just a little bit of a problem with the virtual learning component. So I've become a teacher. I have become, a person who makes slime. I have done things way outside of my box during this pandemic. And to be honest with you, I love every minute of it. I used to travel all the time. And my kids would get to travel with me sometimes, which was really cool. But being able to stay home and be together, honestly, it's stressful. I have a lot of heartburn these days. I drink a lot of wine. But I'm really treasuring these moments because they're a little bit different than my completely corporate professional career has so far afforded me. So this last year has been weird and wonderful. And I started taking antidepressants and here we are, thriving and surviving. So that's a little bit about me. You can learn more about my crazy and see my show at notthehrlady.com. And I'm super excited to chat with all of you guys and hear what your struggles are. I know I'm weird with a mom of 7 kind of thing. But honestly, once you're outnumbered, the number doesn't matter. Like when you run out, it just doesn't matter from there. So if you go 3, as well go 7. There's my advice for everybody out there still procreating. I am not. Cheers.
Well, I can certainly appreciate that. I remember, when we went through the virtual schooling, and we're not doing virtual schooling now. My kids are going in person. But I remember having my son next to me, who couldn't read. Everything had to be read for him. And then my daughter on the other side of me doing her thing, right? And it was funny because, I was so focused on him. What I found out is, for the first 3 weeks, all she did was watch YouTube videos. That's it. She didn't do anything. And it was the teacher reached out to me.
She probably learned a little bit, no?
She learned how to subscribe to channels on YouTube. That's what she learned.
So she's starting on early, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
She got her master's in slime.
Well, yeah. I mean, she got into video games, right? So now she plays Roblox. So she has a certain goal. If she's not playing Roblox, then she's watching videos on how to play Roblox. So, if the one thing the pandemic has given my children, it's a addiction to video games. So thank you for that, pandemic.
Same.
Video games. So we've got a lot of people joining us way to be authentic. We do what we have to. It's so true. Kelly, thanks for joining us. Well done. This is amazing. So we've got a lot of people coming in. Such an amazing, badass group here. Happy to be here. So thank you, everyone who is joining us. Lydia, depends on the videos. That is a very good point. It could have been worse. She could have been watching porn. It could be worse, right? If I didn't know she was watching YouTube, how do I know what kind of videos she was watching? That's all I'm saying. So I was lucky. Very lucky.
There's an app for that, by the way. You know.
Yeah, no, and I know that now. I didn't know that then. Knowledge is power.
Right.
So, so let's, Diana, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're going through, and or any tips you have? Yeah.
Sure. So I'm Diana Lukatich, and I'm a mom of 3. I have a 20-year-old, a 13-year-old, and an 8-year-old. Obviously, one's in college, 2 are physically in school. So that's made it a lot easier. However, as a parent, there's always concerns, with the pandemic. But, to be honest, I think that if you put on a good positive attitude, the kids really do pick up on that. And, they really do try, at least my kids, they sense it. They sense that mom's really working hard and she's really going the extra mile to try to make sure that they have everything that they need, that they have everything that they need to be enabled and the tools that they need to be productive little human beings in school. That does come with challenges, of course, because, they're all different ages and they all have different needs. So that's my part as far as my children. I work for an automation engineering services company. I've been there for over a year now. Love it. Amazing group. I actually started working remote prior to COVID. So I almost feel like I had a little bit of a head start, which was kind of nice. I didn't have to really scramble too much. So as far as adapting to the changes, I'm one of those persons, I go with the flow and I make it work. So I find a way to make things work. Challenges always happen, but that's part of life. So I'm glad to be here. And
and we're happy. We're definitely happy to have you. I've known Diana for a while. We've actually worked together in the past. So I'm very happy to have her here because she's always been like this just positive person. Like every morning she'd bring the sunshine. So I really appreciate that about her. So I know her kids feel that, effect, right? So if there is one thing you would do differently during the pandemic, what do you think it would be, Diana?
I actually put myself in the mind frame of trying to do things differently the second that I found out that the pandemic was hitting. Yeah. And I kind of thought to myself, a lot of people are going to start getting into that mind frame where, well, let's kind of ride it out and see what happens. Where I look at things a little bit differently. And I was ready. I was trying to get equipped with every type of ammunition and tool that I could because I knew that I was going to have to work double time, harder than before, just because there were challenges, because it was going to be more difficult to get a hold of people. It would be much more difficult to balance everyday activities. Everybody's going through changes. So I think that there's always room for, to do something different, but, and I'm not trying to pat my own back, but yeah. I am a go-getter. And I really tried my hardest to really, do the very best I could and work extra hard during the entire pandemic by making those extra calls, sending those extra emails, taking those extra courses, getting those extra certifications, because, we're living in challenging times and, it's kind of like survival of the fittest. And well, I hopefully I'm there and, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, I love that. And, that adaptability, right? I think all moms have that we have to do whatever we have to do to make it happen. There's really no choice. You have to take care of your kids. You have to take care of your job. You have to make your number. You have to do all these things. And you just put in the work and make it happen. And so I think, that's specifically moms bring that superpower to the workforce and don't necessarily get noticed for that. And I think that's kind of sad. But JD is joining us here, and his comments, the real MVPs, pre, during, and post-pandemic, moms, AKA domestic CEOs, keeping the house running while hustling in business at the same time. Kudos to all you ladies. Cheers. That's an awesome comment. Thank you so much, JD. Appreciate you. We've got lots of other people joining us here. So women are working double time for sure. How are you addressing burnout and mental health? I think Tara touched on this. That I myself also, took some antidepressants during the pandemic. It's, I needed it, especially during a job hunt. I went through a brutal job hunt, and I'm happy that I landed where I did. But the process to get there was at times humiliating. At times, like, I wondered about my self-worth. Nobody made it particularly easy, and they're not supposed to. Fine. They're not supposed to. But in the same respect, I think one thing that's come out during the pandemic is some of the biases that are out there about moms, right? If you've ever been on an interview where they start asking about, how's your child care? Everybody knows you're not supposed to ask that. Come on, right? But do they ask? They ask. They totally ask. So, Devin, why don't you share with us?
So, hi, everybody. My name is Devin Banks. I'm in Toronto. So I am a mom, and I might be the only single mom on this panel, oh no, we have some other ones?
No,
okay.
Nina,
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, wow. So I'm only a single mom of one. But yeah, it creates its own challenges, but also in a way, during the pandemic, what's the benefit is that it's because it's just my daughter and I, I've really been able to hyper focus on me and her. There's no one else in the picture, which is great. Like Jen said, I also went on a couple of job hunts during this pandemic. I also had some mental health that I had to deal with. I think, someone asked about how you deal with burnout. I think really you just be super gentle with yourself. And, like there are a lot of nights we eat cereal for dinner. There's a lot of nights that we eat McDonald's for dinner. But you know what? At the end of the day, my daughter's not going to look back and remember all those times where she ate broccoli. She's going to look back at all those times that we went to McDonald's and we got those Happy Meals and we ate them together. So really trying to think, in this pandemic, it's really made me think, let's focus not on the now, but on what we're creating for the future. And that's how I'm looking at my career as well. And this pandemic is like, let's see what we can create now in this pandemic world to reap the benefits down the road.
Well, and I love that needing to have compassion for yourself, be kind to yourself, give yourself time to rest. Does anyone else have any other tips for managing burnout or for, that emotional roller coaster that we've sort of all been going through, whether it's the emotional roller coaster of sales or the pandemic or of sales, the pandemic, and parenthood?
Honestly, it's accepting that it's going to happen eventually. I think that's the biggest thing we have to learn in life is that it's going to happen, especially with us, because we expect so much of ourselves. And I'm talking not just of this time frame, like, because my kids are older. So from the start itself, I always thought I was doing bad. But in honesty, you just have to realize that it's going to burn out. You're going to doubt yourself every second of the day.
Yeah, it's funny because burnout, and especially for working moms, I think it happens a lot faster because we're balancing so many plates in the air. We're spinning so many things at one time. Inevitably, something will crash. And I think for us, we have to just prioritize. What is the most important thing? What is the suck of my energy right now? And is that energy being placed in a way that's productive or helping my family at the end of the day. Because if it's not productive and we're just busy, then what is the point? And so saying no and learning to say no, and I got to eat my own words because this is something I need to do, is say no more often. But don't be afraid to put your boundaries and lay those expectations, and don't think that people are going to consider you, and just excuse my French, but you're not a bitch when you do that. You have standards, you have boundaries, and you have to level that out with people and say, for me right now, my level of burnout is about here. I cannot take anything else because I'm going to be here, and that's not good for anybody in my life. So whether, single mom, married mom, whatever your home life situation is, you have to be able to pour yourself back into your family and into yourself too. Don't forget about you. The other thing I will say is normalize seeing a therapist. My God, it is okay to talk to somebody. Like this type of situation is amazing because you get that other level of, hey, we all get it. We all understand each other. But talk to somebody who is a professional with a non-biased opinion. I personally love male therapists for that reason, because they don't sometimes always understand what's going on, but they sympathize and empathize better than I think other females do in that situation. Because there's that level and that stigma that I think we put on ourselves, that we have to be a certain level, and sometimes we just need to say no. So normalize seeing a therapist and learn to say no is my best advice for managing burnout.
I love that. And the other thing I would add too is don't be afraid to ask for help. I have had to ask for a lot of help during this pandemic, because not only was I switching jobs, single mom, but then I also started dealing with some health issues at the end of last year. And, there were some nights where I couldn't physically get off the couch, and I had to call and ask friends and family for help because I couldn't physically do it. And that was really, really tough. And that's hard for me to do, is ask for help. I want to be able to do it all. I want to be able to do everything. And so that was tough for me. Was realizing that I can't do it all, and I have to rely on other people sometimes to make it through.
Yeah, I saw another question come through too, and I think that's kind of going in tandem with the, finding time for yourself. One of the questions that was brought up was, how do you find time to go to therapy? And it's asking for that help. So if you need to back off and take a break from the kids so you can spend an hour, even if it's telemedicine. That's how I do my therapy sessions, is telemedicine. It's great. I can do it from anywhere at any time. I can be on the phone. I can be on video if I want to be, but 100% teletherapy is wonderful. I've found great resources for that. Also, if you're working for a company, ask what EAP services are provided. A lot of companies offer employee assistance programs where you get free therapy. So, I mean, you know what your resources are, and then learn how to manage your calendar within there. I have 3 children myself, and I'll wait to give my full intro, but I get trying to juggle the balance between everyone's schedule and then trying to find time for yourself. But if it's a priority and it's something that is going to help you fill your cup at the end of the day, do it. Find time.
Yeah. I would say that's the biggest struggle that I have as a mom, is finding the time between a very demanding job and 4 children, working from home. It's so easy for everything to bleed in to each other, and carving out that time for myself. That's not just sort of for myself, but genuinely time to fill my cup. That is the biggest challenge that I have. And I would say it's probably, there's an equation there to my mental health. Like I've struggled a lot, and it's still something that I have to constantly work on, is to make sure that I take the time, because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So anyway, I really like this input in this conversation, not because, I also go to a therapist and I do all of the things, but it doesn't mean that we don't struggle, Yep.
Yeah. I think for me, and I love that Melissa said, that you need to ask for help, right? That is probably my biggest weakness, is asking for help. I couldn't tell you the last time I actually asked for help. And sometimes I need help. And I'm the last one to admit it. So That's something I could work on. Though, just JD here is saying we need to cut ourselves some slack. You wouldn't allow someone to judge you so harshly. Why allow yourself to do it? And he makes such an excellent point. I mean, I know for me, I'm my worst critic. There is no one who is going to be harder on me than me at any given time, whether it's what I'm doing at work, how I am as a mother, whether I'm a good enough mother, whether, all the things. I'm always my worst critic. Do any of you struggle with that, or is it just me?
Absolutely.
I went to a therapist pretty much for this exact reason. Was that, it came down that I was just so harsh on myself and talking to myself like I would never talk to anyone. And she actually recommended a book called Self-Compassion. And the same day she recommended that book, is by Kristen Neff, it was recommended by someone else to me. So it was like almost like karma that I got recommended this book. So I highly recommend Self-Compassion. And then another thing that's really helped me is these things called RAIN meditations. And you can find them on YouTube. And it's basically just being able to allow yourself to recognize those feelings, allow those feelings, investigate those feelings, and then nurture them. So it's not about what we do as moms, which is we feel it and then we say like, no, and we throw it away, right? Or we stuff it back in the box, or we say, we'll deal with that later. You actually take that second to allow those feelings because we deserve those feelings. Like, we're humans. And I think that's where we, as moms, really challenge is like, we're always trying to be everything for everyone else and we're not allowing ourselves. And then for me, that's when it came to a peak when I was like, oh my God, I haven't been happy in so long, And
Yeah.
Because I just wasn't thinking about myself.
It's a great point though, because then you start to internalize what's wrong with me. And it may not be something that's wrong with you. It's just how you have to learn to process it and understand it. And that knowledge is power at the end of the day, right? And so if you understand what you're feeling and thinking and why those thoughts and feelings come up, I think it helps. Yes, there is definitely a time and a place, and hallelujah for antidepressants. Like, I think it's one of those things that you have to be so self-aware of, but that piece of self-awareness takes so long to understand and figure out that I think that people tend to then think, what's wrong with me? Well, it's just better understanding yourself, right? And why you're feeling those things, because you're right. We shove everything under the carpet and say, we'll deal with that later. It's an easy thing to do.
No, it is. It is 100%. So how do you, Marla says here, you should have a me time. It's very important. So how do you ladies have me time? Tell me.
I went and had a pedicure last weekend for the first time in probably 9 months. And I splurged. I was like, no, not the chintzy pedicure. I want the hot stone pedicure. Like, rub my legs for like 45 minutes and we'll be good.
I haven't had one since February 8th of 2020. And I didn't know that was going to be my last one. It's you don't know that it's going to be your last one until it is. And then you're like, shit. My kid gave me one, but it doesn't count. It was the chintzy you're talking about. I want the hot stones. I want the paraffin dip.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what is everybody drinking though? First of all, it's happy hour, Jen, right?
Oh, it is happy hour, but I'm drinking water. I'm on a diet.
That's my girl. I love it.
Water.
Love it.
I'm on low carbs. I can't drink liquor for like a few months now.
I'm only liquid carbing.
Vodka and soda water is a really good option. Squeeze a lime, you'll be good to go.
Well, I did pause at the tequila bottle going, that might be okay. Just like a little shot of tequila. It won't hurt.
It's only 9:01, no big deal.
Because I do like me some tequila. But decided to pass and stay on the water tonight. So yeah, and I went for a pedicure recently too, and I got the full package myself as well. So I totally feel you on that one. And it had been like a year since the last time I did that. Working with a coach can also help. That's true. Therapy should be the most important appointment you keep. And I agree with that too. I'm in therapy.
Yeah, I think That's probably the only answer I can give. What was the last time I actually took time for myself was just time with a therapist. And it was an appointment I didn't even want. I was like, oh, I don't want to do this today. I don't have time for this crap. I'm in a good mood. Why are we doing this? But I showed up and it was an important meeting. So it was for the best. Stick with it.
Now, JD's got, he's sending his wife away for a night to a hotel with snacks, a gift card for DoorDash, a charged laptop for Netflix, and a couple bottles of wine.
The crazy thing is like, he definitely does this. Like JD is like a super staunch supporter and an ally. Right? He's like the biggest ally ever. And oh my gosh, like, can we all just take a moment? What a good guy. Some of them, not all white people suck.
Yeah. JD, you're awesome. We salute you.
I just want to add, I think it's amazing that we have allies like JD. And I just hope, though, that men like JD are also standing up when they're at work. And there's women who need maternity leave. And there's women who need rooms to pump. And there's women who need
the bathroom.
Right. Like those kinds of things, like having Netflix and having that support. And he's also doing the dishes and taking on the emotional load. He knows his kids' shoe sizes. He knows his kids' dentist names. He's making those appointments. Like, that's really like, I want a bottle of wine, but I also want, and like I said, I'm a single mom, but if I had a partner, I want him being like, this is the 6-month dentist appointment. This is the vaccination coming up. I'm taking this on. I'm sick of taking on all that. Can I support?
Dads aren't the shit,
right? I get it. Like 2 kids, I can't even imagine more than my 2 kids, how many doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, just the number of appointments. Like that just, Tara, that just blows my mind.
So, but I've trained them. Like we just rotate them out. Like it's like, all right, get out, get in, come on, let's go. Wait, shots, grandma. Next one, like we just shuttle them in and out. Like you have to get it on a system. I run my house like I run my business, you know? But also when I say that, I really mean it, right? That I'm empathetic and I'm a teacher and I know that I need to provide the right demonstration as a mom to get the best out of my kids. Do I do that perfectly every time? Fuck no. My son is 9, and for his 9th birthday, he looked at me and he goes, and I swear to God, I wrote about this back in October. He looks at me and he goes, 9 more years. And I'm like, till you're 18? And he goes, till I can say the F word and not be in trouble. And I was like, you are so my son, and I didn't know how much it rubbed off on you. It's evidently very clear now, but he's a rule follower, right? Like me, I'm a rule follower too, but fuck the system, you know, like that's my kid. And it's like, it's this crazy ability to affect your household. If you think about it, like you'd affect your business and you treat yourself like you treat your boss, treat yourself like you treat your CEO, treat yourself the same way you would treat your work. Right? Like if you think about it like that, it sort of changes the dynamic for me because I wouldn't treat my kids like shit. And I wouldn't all the time anyway. I wouldn't, you know, I would want to give them opportunities to learn and to grow. I would want to give them opportunities to feel safe and included. I would, you know, and that's exactly what the world of work should do. And what the beautiful result of doing those things are with children, you grow them to be great contributors to society. People like JD, right? When you do it at work, you help build. And if you want to think about it from a financial perspective, diverse and inclusive places do better financially. So like, if you think about all of this the same, that the result, if you just kind of like aren't an asshole in any facet of your life, but are an asshole where you need to be, that you can create like such an amazing result. And that's with your kids too. So I think about it like that, right? It's a little different of an approach, but it's an approach that I think is easier to wrap your head around when you're thinking about like, what does good leadership look like versus what does good motherhood or parenthood look like? And really the answers shouldn't be too far off, right?
No, it shouldn't. And I love that. So thank you for sharing. So Melissa, we haven't heard from you yet. So it's your turn to share.
So hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Murillo. I have one almost 10-year-old daughter. She'll be 10 in 2 weeks. and I am a director of sales development at a company called Sperian. So very, very demanding job, single mom. But as I mentioned before, like I've had to ask for help. You know, that's really been my big takeaway in all of this. Like I never would have made it through the initial stages of the pandemic without my mom. She was a godsend. Like there's no way I could have been a teacher full time and worked. And like a lot of you guys mentioned, which I really appreciated, I changed jobs in the middle of the pandemic, and I had no idea how isolating it was going to be, because you don't realize how much your coworkers become family, especially when you were working with them in the trenches day in and day out. And when I changed jobs, I went from having this team of people that I knew and trusted and cared about to strangers. And those were the only people I was really interacting with all day, every day. And my daughter was actually with her dad during that first 2-week period. And it was really hard mentally. And, you know, I love how authentic that you ladies have really been about, you know, seeking therapy, taking medication, check. You know, and then when you threw my health issues in there, it exacerbated everything. So I give so much credit to, you know, all the work, not just working moms, but working parents, because the dads have been going through it too, working from home and having kids around all the time. So I think it's been just a huge transition for everyone. And the more that people have helped pitch in with me, it's deepened a lot of my relationships as well. So while I think the pandemic has scaled back on some of my fringe level friends, it's really brought to the surface those people that are going to be there and love you through everything.
That's beautiful. You gave me like goosebumps. Seriously. So Heidi shared, personally, I block off time every single day that I don't schedule any meetings for just me. Might go for a walk, listen to a podcast, journal, go to therapy. It's my sacred time. So I think that's pretty amazing. She's a mom too. But I think that taking that time and finding, I mean, you have to find time, right? And be intentional about finding time to do any of those things. And for me, that's definitely using my calendar. But then also finding your tribe. Our episode over in March is about finding your tribe, but finding people who support you and love you, just like Melissa. You know, you start to understand who is going to be there for you sort of long term and who's going to have your back, right? When it comes down to it, not just like that surface level, like, yeah, I know you, but who is actually there when you need someone, I think is really important. And so Tani, it's your turn.
I've really enjoyed listening to everybody. I tend to talk too much, maybe. So I just really have enjoyed relaxing and just kind of taking all of you in. My name is Tani Harned, and I have 4 children, and I work for a voice data as a service company, and I am responsible for creating and running with strategic partnerships that help grow the business by an order of magnitude. And this job has been way out of my wheelhouse in lots and lots of respects, but it has been one of the happiest challenges that I've ever had professionally. With that challenge came significant learning curve in multiple respects, and I've sort of poured myself into it, like many of us do, and in doing so, also found that like my well-being started falling off a cliff. So I kind of come to this event today as a listener, to kind of learn about like what other good things people are doing to sort of make it all work. While I'm making it all work, getting by isn't really my idea of best life. And so I really appreciate, again, like everybody else has kind of mentioned, the authenticity of this conversation, and because I've already learned quite a bit from you guys, and made some notes that I have to get some of the things in priority. And during the pandemic, you know, like many, I lost my job, and I ended up taking that time and just giving it to my kids rather than getting really frenetic about replacing employment. I took a minute to figure out, like, okay, what I'm going to do and what is the right thing for me to do so I can really give my all to it authentically. And so I gave that time to my kids, and we went to the park a lot. And when it was time to start interviewing again, which really came right after losing my job, but I was willing to let it fall apart a little bit. I couldn't conceive of how I could ever go back to work and do it all. That's the truth. But I did it. I ripped the Band-Aid off, and I found this role, and it's been fantastic. And I'm doing it all again. But I have to admit that I have a lot of help, and that's the only way that I make it work. So anyway, that's me in a nutshell. And I'm here sort of humbly today, not at my best in terms of execution and the whole life scale. So I really appreciate learning from all of you, and I appreciate you inviting me to participate.
Well, I mean, it's always a journey.
Yeah.
And what I love about you is, as soon as I met you, we immediately got on the phone, right?
Yeah.
And related to each other and supported each other. And we were both going through some stuff. And you just sort of, you figure it out and you find ways to move on.
Yeah.
And you get through it. And you got through it beautifully. And now have found a wonderful place where you can thrive. And it's still a journey. I think being a mom, being a working mom is always going to be a journey, and you're going to have to always find ways to balance, the priorities and figure out, how to do it all. I remember, there was this one time, I had to go on a business trip, and my 3-year-old at the time threw herself on my luggage and was screaming at me not to go.
Oh.
Don't go. And like crying hysterically. And so every time I feel like, like I'm a bad mom, I think back to that moment of my daughter throwing herself on my luggage, like, don't leave me. And it's like, you figure your way through it. I mean, when I got back, she was happy to see me, and I spent tons of time with her, and she doesn't remember it now. Now she's like, what are you talking about, Mom?
Oh.
Yeah, there was that time when you were 3. It was like traumatic. I still have nightmares.
Yeah.
So, you get through it, and you're hanging on. And anytime you need support, that's what like all of these other women are for. We just want to support you. Laura here says that's a construct. You don't talk too much. And I agree. You do not talk too much. Be loud, be proud, lady. Your contributions are valuable.
Oh, that's nice.
And I totally agree.
Holly.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was just kind of curious about habits that you guys have had to sort of come to, tell yourself the truth, like to face habits in your life that were inhibiting you, during the pandemic or now, whenever, or I guess we're in the pandemic still, but at the beginning of it till now, have you had to face the music on any habits and that kind of thing? I mean, I guess that's the end of the question. Things that were limiting you, challenging you, and your ability to sort of achieve the way or scale to the challenges the way that you would like to.
Yeah, I struggle with the never enough.
Yes.
The like, how much more can I do? And if I do more, will people look at me differently? Like having to give up caring what other people think, and that never enough feeling like really matters. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm just putting in my best effort, right, and I know that I make valuable contributions, I don't have to do more. Why do I feel like I always have to do more?
Jen, I think you just hit the nail on the head too. It's so easy to compare ourselves to what we see on social media. So you see these moms that are making their own baby food and they're, doing all these wonderful things with their children. And I'm like, sometimes it's all I can do to not lose my shit, to make sure that her hair is brushed. Half the time her teeth aren't.
Oh my God.
Never ending struggle. But, I compare myself to all these moms on social media. And to your point, Jen, like it's easy to feel like I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough. I could do more. But could I? Not without absolutely melting down. I don't think so.
To that point too, with social media, it's so relevant in this day and age where it wasn't 20 years ago. And so, I think that this is the biggest thing that everybody has to kind of realize when you're comparing yourself to somebody's social media. You're comparing yourself to the 2% of their life that is probably going right that they've chosen to post about that day. It is not an accurate depiction of what is going on behind closed doors. And so I just remind myself that everyone has times where they are just as screwed up as we are. And you know what? Like, it's okay at the end of the day. We all have our struggles. We all have days where we look amazing. We all have days where we hate the way we look. And, whatever the situation is on social media, whether it's they're cutting star shapes out of their kids' sandwiches, or, they were lucky to get a Lunchable today, and I'm glad I remembered. At the end of the day, I feel like the comparison on social media is one of the toughest things we have to overcome, because that is such an in-your-face, all-day type of thing. And so I just continue to remind myself that 2% of their life that they posted that was going right, let's celebrate that because that went well for them. But let me not compare myself and my situation to what I have no idea the other 98% of them. So that's my best advice with social media comparison.
It's all marketing. So like to your point, it's all marketing.
It is.
It's all you think of, every one of us are business people, right? So if you think about it in terms of like social media, it's just marketing. Those mom blogs who are making like fucking pancake designs with R2D2 and shit, like come on, that's marketing, okay? Like that's not real. That's not realistic. Everybody who can do that sort of thing. And if you have the ability to curate your life in which that is fulfilling to you, there is no judgment. More fucking power to you. That's great. But like, that doesn't mean that I'm less than because I'm whipping up some Bisquick, So like, that's where we have to stop. Like, my kids are lucky to be fed. Like most of the days, and you guys are the same. I know this. I feel this from you. Most of the days, it's like fend for yourself day. Like they're all big enough, they can figure it out. Like, one of them eggs, if I'm busy or tired, like one of them can pitch up, get in, suit up, do the eggs, get everybody going. Like it's fine, right? It's fine. We all do it. I taught my son chemistry in the early days of the pandemic by teaching him how to mix a gin and tonic, and I thought this is like a highly marketable life skill for his future. And here's and like what it looks like to make a really good cocktail. And also it's a awesome because it's ex parte. He doesn't try it. It's not for him to judge. But like when you start getting creative with the ways that you engage your kids, it doesn't have to be starfish. It can definitely be a gin and tonic with them. And then you knock out some homeschooling right in the same batch. So like, you guys, we just have to approach this differently. We've got to stop looking at others and going like, why does she have a smoky eye in the middle of the day? Like, why are we all at home right now? Like, what kind of life am I living? Why am I not even noon? Like, it's fine. We're all going through it and just living the best we can. And the best thing we can do is shut everything off and stop realizing that we're just fine the way we are. We have kids who are loved and supported and cared for. We have jobs and careers, and somehow we manage it all. And we need to give ourselves some fucking grace from time to time. That it's cool that I'm not an Instagram mom with some backdrop for my 1-year-old fucking birthday cake. And I've been that mom. So like, I have that, right? We've all kept up with the Joneses. My kids were born in the beginning of like social media. And so yeah, you see it and you try to keep up. When I had one kid, that was one thing. When I had 2 kids, that became more challenging. By the 3rd kid, I'm not sure we've had a birthday party. So, give themselves a moment to understand that we're all in the same boat as each other. That tuna fish and pickles sometimes are dinner.
Yep.
And that's fine.
That's okay.
We're at the stage.
Totally okay.
We're totally at the stage of the pandemic now where my daughter, who is about to be 2.5, knows how to open a Slim Jim, and my boys can make mac and cheese. So we're doing great over here.
Oh, yeah, we've got eggs down. We can follow any direction. We learned to read with ramen noodles. So, it's a win-win. Mom is happy, kids are fed, everybody can read. I don't know how we're losing in this situation.
Well, everybody can read. That's a good one.
Yeah. I just want to add, you asked one thing that I had to give up. And I think for this pandemic, I really had to give up being liked by everybody. And what I mean was I really started to put up boundaries and say no. And there were people that didn't like that. People I worked with, people I was friends with, family that didn't like that. And I had to just and in a way, getting over that hump of the not being liked was so empowering for me to really finally take a stand for myself and who I am. So I just wanted to share that because I feel that was really big for me, was to just kind of, I don't want to say it was fuck it, I don't care what anyone thinks, but to really just be this is what I need for me now. And if you can't respect that, then I don't want you in my space.
Yeah, I would agree. I've been intentional about the no. If I'm going to say no, I mean no for a particular reason. So just respect the no.
Right.
So Lydia asked a question here, and she says, I don't want to stir up the hornet's nest. She's really curious. If you had a choice, would you choose to be a full-time stay-at-home mother and homemaker, or work career necessary to feeling like a complete person? And I'll take this first, only because I tried this. That story from when my daughter was 3 and she threw herself on the luggage, right? I had an opportunity to try to stay at home. I sold a house. I went all in. I sold my house. I went back to a condo that I previously owned. It was tiny. I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. It was week 2. And I was like, this sucks. Sucks so bad. And I went all in. I created a mom's group. I had a website. I had Pinterest going on. I did some crafts and stuff. And I was terrible at it. No, I don't do anything halfway.
I have a blog that talks about recipes, because if you did, that's the coup de grace.
No, because I don't cook.
Okay. Fair.
I just don't. My husband does the cooking around here. So I'm lucky in that way. I've just never enjoyed that. But so, yeah, I had this idea in my mind. Oh, I really want to be a stay-at-home mom, because I dropped the kids off at school and all the stay-at-home moms would just be all planning play dates and all this stuff. And I felt kind of jealous. I wanted to be able to do that. I wanted my kids to have that sort of experience. And I tried it and I absolutely hated it. And I was not fulfilled. It just was not for me. And so, do I need it to feel like a complete person? I absolutely do. And I tried it. And so, anyone else who wants to share?
I went back to work a week early from my maternity leave. I had 9 weeks. At 8, I'm like, I'm coming back. I need adult conversation. I'm done.
Right.
Sorry,
I tried it several times, and each time came to the realization. Now, this last time, I didn't. I was getting better at it, but I didn't. When I tried before, I had, 2 kids within 24 months, or they were 21 months apart. And then I had another one within another 24 months. So at the other times that I tried, my kids were very little and all, under 4 years. So this last time that I tried, I had, they were a little older and I had a baby, and it was fine. But every time that I come back to work, I realize, yeah, this is where I strike a balance. This is where I find a better equilibrium in general for life, right? Because I'm empowered in lots of ways, and I'm challenged intellectually in lots of ways. And I can kind of create some boundaries that I have a harder time establishing when I'm not working. So to answer the question, I mean, do I need it to feel like a complete person? I don't know that I need, I just didn't feel like a complete person necessarily as a stay-at-home mom. I felt like there was an element that was missing. Could I replace it with, some sort of other activities or volunteerism or action? Probably. But it turns out that it works for me and for our life for me to be a working parent.
Thank you for sharing. That's, yeah. And that really resonates with me as well. So Bina, why don't you share? It's your turn.
Okay. Well, I'm Bina. I have 2 kids. I have a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old. So actually, I kept asking Jen, should I come on? I've got older kids, but I see everybody's going through the same stuff, so it makes sense. And, during the pandemic, it has been hard. And actually, right before the pandemic, I had to quit my job because my kid wasn't well. One of them had gone through surgery. So I was working from home technically on my own business and stuff. So when pandemic hit, I wasn't expecting it. I was going to try to go back to work. So like all of y'all, some of y'all, I was struggling to get a job. I decided to change fields. Thankfully, I met Jen in that part of the travel. I had my own medical scare, which was hard. So it's not usually talked about in the Indian culture, but yeah, I have been on antidepressants also during that time. Especially they had to put me on it because with my kids' stuff going on and my own stuff, it was hard. And so getting the job, for me, to answer the last question, yes, I need this job because it makes me know that I'm beyond just a mom sometimes. I'm beyond just the failure I feel like sometimes, where you're not always meeting that checklist at the end of the night. That's the stuff that helps me when I am working, and sales is amazing because you're always trying to make yourself better, which also resonates in your personal life with your kids, everybody. So for me, yeah, I love being in sales. And my kids have definitely challenged me, even though they're older in the pandemic. They have their challenges. Both one of them turned 21 in the middle of the pandemic. That was not fun. And wow. Then the other one was, she's staying at home and going to school. So it's got its challenges some days because she's dealing with her own issues because she's 17 and staying home all the time and not really being able to see other people is not what a 17-year-old can handle. So then I also see that side of life. So all I can say is we just take it one day at a time. And I've tried for a long time. I've been trying to find myself or whatever, try to figure out how to play the game of being a mom and live in the world at the same time, which may not always work. But I tried to be the realist. I tried to be it's half the cup or whatever. I've tried all that. But the only thing that saves me in my life is being optimistic. Every time I'm optimistic, I've done better. Having the faith that I'll make it here is the only thing that saved me up to now. And it's actually changed my life, especially more when I started thinking about it stronger during the pandemic. So,
do you spend time visualizing when you're being optimistic? Does it include like a matter of like?
I'm a daydreamer. I'm a daydreamer. That's all I do.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'll admit it now. I am a daydreamer, and that's what lets me succeed in life.
That's great.
I have to see it. Because if I'm not envisioning it, I can't feel the positiveness. I don't bring those energies into it. So yes, I'm a daydreamer. I love to daydream. I use that to write. One of my outlets is writing. So I write a lot. And, that's how I make it through because I don't know how I would have made it through otherwise. Just saying.
There's a book by a guy named, and it's really it's like an older book, but it's this book that has inspired a lot of other books. So it's called Psycho-Cybernetics. And it was authored by a plastic surgeon named Maxwell Maltz. So I highly recommend it. And Maltz is one of the first of the gurus who started talking about the power of visualization to create the outcomes that you want in your life. Yes. And so now we have lots and lots of other folks that are, gurus. Joe Dispenza is one of them, and Tony Robbins is another, that are talking about the power of visualization to sort of overcome the current situation and sort of achieve some other reality that you want for yourself. So it's interesting that you are already doing that sort of automatically by default. This is just part of who you are. I think that's beautiful.
I had to. I mean, I've always been a positive person, but certain things in life made me a single parent, and there's been struggles throughout the years through that, medical conditions my kids had and everything, and trying to keep a job. People would tell me not to tell people I had kids. And that was the hardest thing for me to handle, because even a couple of months ago when I was trying to interview for different positions, they're like, just don't tell them you have kids. I'm like, that's me. That makes me who I am, and there's no way I can change that. So yeah, basically, 4 years ago, I wouldn't have thought I would get here, but I was like, you know what? I'm going back to the positive person I was when I was a kid because I survived, and so I'm going to keep doing that. And 4 years ago, I just kept thinking positive, and where I'm standing today, I dreamt it, like I daydreamed it, I guess you could say, but I just had to believe it would happen. I just had to have faith and believe it, because nobody would have believed me that I'd be here today. Let's just say that.
Fantastic. Good for you.
Thank
you. Yeah. Keep on grinding. That's awesome.
I'm so happy for you, Bina. So there is a question here. Is it harder for older kids to get them to be safe and socially distanced?
Yes.
Yes.
Totally hard.
I thought so. I thought it would be much harder. Holly, we've heard from you a little, but
I'll do a formal
it is
intro.
your turn.
Hey, everybody. My name's Holly Signor. I am a manager of sales development at Deltec, but first and foremost, I'm the co-founder of the Signor House. So I am a mom of 3 and a wifey, and I relate to so much of what's already been said, like pandemic, insert, mental health on top of that. But we struggle with another set of issues in our house too, with one of our children, and he has 8 combined disorders. And so, the pandemic for us was a really different time frame because it completely shifted the dynamic of our household. And so I think it's just, again, going back to the giving yourself some grace. I mean, the amount of times I've sat in my closet crying through the last year is unreal.
Yes.
But sometimes you just, again, the plate spinning is probably the best analogy I can give, because sometimes those plates are going to have to fall, or sometimes you're going to have to pass them off. And just understanding your priorities and understanding what the needs are and what is the most important. And for us, that was, for my son, it was making sure that he had what he needed to thrive and survive, and when you go into a survival mode, it's almost that second level of how can I be what this person needs from me, as a mom and as a wife, but also for myself, because I personally struggle with mental health too. And so, I think that for us, it was just this layers and layers of different situations, and trying to sift through it all and better understand how to manage that, on top of working, on top of now being in one of the first remote roles I've ever done in my entire life. And so, a lot of the situations that changed last year just reminded me at the end of the day that change is the only thing that's consistent. And so the better you are at change management, the better that you can prepare yourself to handle change, the better off that you'll be, because we have to understand how to manage the things that come at us in a way that again, it gives you giving yourself grace and understanding how you react in a situation, is 9 times out of 10 the best way, in my opinion, to figure out how to handle the situation that's in front of you. And so, from a mom with a kid with special needs, 2 others, and one of them being a toddler, I have 2 8-year-olds and a 2-year-old. So it's always constant at our house. There's never a shortage of things to do or things that need to be done. And so for me, prioritization is how I live my life. I live and die by the calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist, and I'll probably forget. And sorry if that even means time for my friends or other people that need it from me. Sometimes I have to just draw that line. And so, I can relate. I mean, the pandemic, I think in itself was hard for everyone in some way, shape, or form. There was impact there, but for working moms, for moms with kids with needs, for single moms, married moms, honestly, dads too. My poor husband works in our living room and I'm in our office. And so, it is difficult. It's a lifestyle switch at the end of the day that nobody was prepared to do. We were forced to make. And, at the end of the day, we're happy, we're healthy, our kids are fed, whether it's Slim Jims or mac and cheese, but, we do have to give ourselves space, and we have to be open and honest with ourselves too. What is that priority? What's important to me? What's filling my cup? So my 2 cents, is take everything and just look at it and diagnose for yourself where that falls on your radar and how much that's filling your cup and what you're giving of yourself in a day. Because if it's more than you can pour back into yourself, don't give it away.
Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you all for your vulnerability. You were all got a little vulnerable, and at times I felt a little teary-eyed, and I, sincerely appreciate it, because I think, especially going to on LinkedIn Live with the business community, I think they need to see moms for everything that there is about us, all of the ways we succeed, all of the ways we struggle, and all the ways that no matter what, we figure it out. And I think that has a lot of value. And I think the one theme that was pretty consistent across everyone is, having grace for yourself, being kind, compassionate, and giving yourself a break, right? Finding that time and not being so hard on ourselves, asking for help. Does anyone have any final thoughts? Because believe it or not, we're already 2 minutes over. So the time just flew. Does anyone have any final thoughts they'd like to share?
I do want to say, I thank all of y'all for being honest and making it an easy place to talk about everything. And I think it was awesome of all of y'all. And so thank you, because it helps me deal with things, to know that we're all in the same boat, just got different views on it. So thank you.
I honestly forgot we were on LinkedIn Live for a minute. Like Tara said.
I really forgot too. I was like, oh, that's right. Other people are watching us, and it's not just people over here commenting, right? It's not just everybody who's commenting. There's more. So I'm with you, and that's the idea, right, Jen? Is to make it feel like we can all just get together like we used to in the olden days, and share a cocktail and our life struggles after work, right?
And that's it. And I think there's power in sharing it, right? That men or businesses don't necessarily see moms for themselves, their whole selves, right? They look at moms for maybe what is a drawback, that there are multiple priorities and things like that. But at the end of the day, we always get it done.
We juggle
always
so well.
We're gonna,
you ask a mom to do something, and she's gonna go do it and take over it, and then she's gonna still feel like it's never enough, right? Yes. At the end of the day, moms are awesome.
If it's complex, give it to a mom. If it's complex and has a lot of layers, give it to a mom. If you have to have something investigated, like deep research, give it to a mom. We've got this. We know how to do all of it.
Multiple types of personalities. People throw temper tantrums, all that.
Yeah, we can deal with that. We can deal with narcissists. We can deal with crazy people. Who knows the spectrum? We are all angry.
Empathy, all.
That was the one thing about motherhood that surprised me in the context of work, is that I became, in a big way, I became such a better professional having traversed these experiences in motherhood. And I kind of woke up to it a few, maybe 3 years ago, that I was like, wait, hold up, all these skills that I had to, at first they were so painful to learn as a mother. Now they kind of they're my superpower, and they make me a badass. And I'm bringing so much more into my work product than I ever did before. I know, I'm so much more valuable as an employee than I ever was before motherhood. And I mean, so if there's anybody who's listening, like pay attention to like all of these moms, all of the moms, develop a skill set, and parents, I shouldn't just say moms, all the parents, you know, really who are doing the parenting, develop a skill set that, you know, it's extremely valuable if you haven't also been, you know, if you haven't been through it, it's also really great. So.
Yeah.
Moms have are awesome.
The scariest and best thing I ever did in my life is being a parent.
And Jen, thank you for starting this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining me. And so next month, we've got another panel of amazing women, and we're going to be talking about finding your tribe, which I'm so blessed to have you all in my tribe because I know you all. And now you should all know each other. So go be friends. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you to everyone who joined us on live. I'm so grateful. And please join us again. I will respond to some of the comments that we haven't had a chance to respond to yet. And have a good night. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.